Hey guys, welcome to Juicy Tea, where I read out the best stories on Reddit, so you don't have to. The funny, shocking, and satisfyingly juicy. So, I covered this story a few weeks ago, but there's been a really juicy update since. If you listen to the original story and just want to skip to the update, the timestamp is in the description. Entitled X ghosted my friend, then demands a room in our house. Today's story comes from the BestofRedditorUpdates subreddit, posted by ImRealHun. This isn't my ex, but my best friend's ex. She and I have been friends for years and live together now. We live with my parents, who adore her like their own daughter. I got her permission to post this. My friend, 30 female, came to the US from Latin America at 19 as a student. She also started dating her ex, 29 male, after many years of hanging out with each other, both during vacations and online. I knew them both since high school and they seemed like they were good together. She'd tried convincing him to move in together a few years before their breakup. He was living with his parents who wanted him to leave. At this point, she'd already finished college and had a job in the US that granted her a visa. He'd quit college and worked part-time. From what I can gather, he didn't want to leave his parents' place because free food and no rent. So instead, she asked if I wanted to move in with her, so we could afford a bigger place. I said yes, and we moved in together, adopted a cat and a dog, and pretty much became Grace and Frankie. Around the start of the pandemic, things got bad for them. This is what I was told, and what I saw. They never talked or hung out or anything. I was in a breakup at that time myself, so I wasn't really on top of it, since I had my own issues. But my friend cried a lot. She didn't even get a happy birthday. After a year of no contact, she assumed the relationship was over. She changed all of her social media to single, which he could see, took him off her emergency contacts at work and her doctors, and just moved on with her life. This year, my stepdad's health has gone downhill, and my mum needs help caring for him. She works full-time as a therapist. I work from home, and my job is very flexible. So, I put in the idea of us all living together, and I'll care for my dad. Eventually, I'll care for mum too. My mum loved the idea, and asked my bestie if she wanted to move in with us too, so we could all be together. And also, because at this point, I can't see myself not being in the same house as her. We've come to terms with being single ladies. Heck, we've joked that one of us should adopt, so that we can become a parent/aunt dynamic. And now, the joke is more serious, since I'm actually considering it, and she's incredibly supportive. No, we're not dating. She's straight and I'm bi. We're just incredibly close after all the BS we've lived through together. We found a perfect house. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms. Enough space, a yard, and everything we need. We got it after a bunch of difficulties and arrangements. Since I don't have immediate plans for adopting yet, I have a ton of paperwork and years of planning ahead. We made the extra room into our office/gaming hub. We both work at the same place. Totally not on purpose. They were hiring and we both needed visas. As proud first-time homeowners, we posted the pictures. Her ex, who by this point has been MIA for 3 years, messaged her saying he was so excited to move into the new house. Wait, what? She should respond with, "Who dis?" She told him that this was her house with me and my parents. He said that since they were a couple, she should kick me out and my parents so he could move in. Is this guy for real? I want to point out that my parents bought the house. We, my friend and I, will pay them our parts over the years. And if she decides to move out, I'll finish paying and buy out her part. This is all on paper and signed. So she obviously told him he wasn't moving in with us and that he ghosted her, so there was no relationship. He went on a tirade that he never broke up with her, that she was abandoning him, and that she never cared about him, etc. Is this why he ghosted? In case one of his exes hit it big, and then he can come crawling back with a, "Technically, I didn't break up with you." I got pissed off and took the phone from her, and told him he could live in a bear cave for all I care, but to leave my friend and our house alone. He went ballistic, and began calling us all sorts of names, referring to the LGBTQ+ community, names that would probably get this post flagged, so I'll leave it to your imagination. Ugh, he sounds delightful. My friend started crying, and I was absolutely done with him. I never thought he was abusive, but my friend confessed to me that this was not new. He's always had issues with the two of us living together, and often accused her of cheating on him with me. We ended the call, and I told her she needed to block him for her own sanity's sake. She deserves so much better than this man-child. She got me to leave my abusive ex when I was in high school. She took me to the hospital when he beat me up and called my parents. My friend is my family, and I'll be dead before I let some bastard with commitment issues make her suffer. Since then, he's gone on a major campaign in our friend group to say that my friend abandoned him and left him homeless, since apparently he cancelled his lease after he saw that we bought a house. The audacity! Why would he just assume he gets to move in after zero contact for 3 years? He also claims that we're lesbian Satanists and probably abuse our pets and are mooching off my parents. Okay, so if you're mooching off your parents, why would he expect to move in? Did he also date and ghost your mum at some point? Most of my friends know the story, and they know that my friend and I moved in together, first out of necessity, and then just because we don't see ourselves not living together. So yeah, my friend's ex is a nutcase, and if he ever gets close to her again, I will personally give him a free vasectomy. Update. Some people asked if our friends knew where the ex was hiding for 3 years, and I was actually curious. Since I was down for the count at work today, I had some time to check with my friends and find out. Apparently, my bestie did ask them, but they didn't know. From what they tell me, he kind of got back into everyone's life in the last year or so. But he was only part of the group because they were my bestie's friends, not really his. I personally don't know many of his own friends, to be fair. I did track down the ex's sister thanks to social media and poked her for information. She's very nice and always treated my bestie right. I told her what her brother did, and her response was very interesting. Apparently, the ex was dating other girls until his parents decided to move outside the US. Does that count as cheating since they technically never broke up? He's now living on a friend's couch, so he didn't actually cancel a lease. He never had a lease. The last she heard was a couple days ago when they went out for coffee. He was saying that he got this brand new house and was going to be moving in this week. Such a Lululemon. As far as she knew, my bestie begged him to take her back and let her live in his house. I corrected her and said no, Bestie is living with me and my parents in our new house. Her reaction was, of course he lied, and just thanked me for letting her know that he was BSing. Aside from that, I do want to report that we are safe. He doesn't know where we live, and most people don't because we're not really ready to open Pandora's box and have friends come over. We also need time to figure out who we want in the know. We won't be going to the police unless something serious happens because this technically isn't a crime. But we are going to be keeping records and printing text conversations. If he tries anything, we'll have all our papers in order. And just in case, I plan to contact our company's HR so they know the situation. The company we work for can provide us with free legal counsel if things get bad. Update 2. Well, it seems like I'm stuck in a saga now. Once again, I have full permission from my friend to share this. As my first post said, my friend's ex ghosted her and then tried to move in with her, and by extension me, after years of no contact. My friend told him where he can go. For a bit, it was actually pretty calm. She cut contact and blocked him as May suggested, and between the two of us, my bestie and I did some culling of our friend group. People we knew were passing on information to her ex. We've settled in the new house together, and she actually gets along better with my parents than I do sometimes. Guess she's the golden child now. Sadly, eventually we had to adult and get some much needed food. We went to Walmart in town together, and by some bad luck, we crossed paths with her ex. I wish it was just some awkward glances and each on their own way, but no. At first, he tried to talk to her. My friend said she didn't want to speak to him and didn't want him near her. I mostly reminded him that I wanted to rip out his spine and beat him to death with it. Sadly, that didn't deter him from following us around like the most obnoxious toilet paper stuck to his shoe. We did our shopping and headed to the car, with him still after us. I told my friend to get into the car and start the engine and lock it while I load the groceries. Her ex then decided to appeal to me to talk my friend into taking him back. I don't know what power held me back from committing a felony, but I'm pretty sure I've earned a PhD in self-control. I told him, in no uncertain terms, where he could put his reconciliation, and that if he kept following us, I would make sure that his legs were out of the equation. I got into the car and my friend began driving back, when we noticed a car following us. We knew it was following because the direction we were going was not usual. To rule out a possible neighbour, we actually did a full U-turn, almost back to the store, and stopped to get some fast food. We ate in the parking lot and then headed back home again. The same car was after us. Now, as much as I talk of violence, I have to admit, I was terrified. So was my friend. Neither of us has a gun permit. The best we carry is a can of pepper spray. And we know her ex has guns. So yeah, we were not comfortable at that point. Instead of going home, we headed past our neighbourhood and, following the usual advice from TV, drove to a police station. Once in it, we wrote a statement and I got a scolding about the confrontation in the Walmart parking lot. The reason we know it was her ex was because when we got home, she got a call from him on a new number saying, "I know where you live now." We immediately called the police. So that's where we stand. The cops just left a few minutes ago, and my brother's gonna stay over for a few weeks until we can get a restraining order and some sturdier locks. Also, I want to clarify a few things. A lot of people have asked why originally my friend took a whole year of being ghosted to accept that the relationship was over. While I get it, trust me, please understand that when my friend came to the US, she had no one. She's cut contact with a toxic family. She literally only had her ex. I moved into the US a year later and also came alone at first. But my parents were able to become citizens and I had them. When her relationship died out, she lost not just her boyfriend, but his family, who were pretty much as close to family as she could get. It's not easy, and I personally can't imagine how lonely she felt. I could spend Christmas with my parents, but she had no one for that first year. So please don't judge her for it, because she doesn't deserve it. It's not easy to be an immigrant when you have no place to return to. Man, this story was nuts! Can you imagine seeing an ex that you ghosted 3 years ago posting about buying a house on social media and just deciding that you're gonna move in with them? Oh my god, the delulu! Now, to the update. My best friend's ex-mother-in-law demands my friend become a submissive wife to a stalker son. Now, my bestie never married her ex, but for simplicity, I refer to her ex's parents as ex-mother-in-law and ex-father-in-law. Her ex-in-laws no longer live in the US, but they did come over for Thanksgiving. Though Bestie is no longer dating their son, she offered to pick them up at the airport and take them to their hotel. She did this because they would do that for her when she was in college. I didn't like it since her ex is a problem, but she wanted to use the chance to ask her ex's parents to intervene and maybe get him off her back. I still didn't like it, but I figured they probably were okay based on how she described them. And I was completely wrong. Bessie arrived in tears and with a scratched cheek. I immediately asked her, what happened? And now I'm seeing red. The next part comes from how Bessie described things to me. Picking them up went well, and they talked about the old days. They asked Bessie if they could stop by a nearby restaurant they always liked, and Bessie, being her usual self, decided to treat them to lunch. All hell broke loose at the restaurant though. Apparently, her ex-mother-in-law demanded to know why she didn't take her abusive stalker ex back. According to ex-mother-in-law, Bessie is responsible for her baby boy since she was his first girlfriend and they were married in the eyes of God. To start, they were never legally married and Bestie is an atheist, so yeah. Bessie tried to defuse the situation, explaining she'd moved on with her life after 3 years not knowing where he was. She did try to ask her ex-mother-in-law to convince her son to leave her alone and that she just doesn't want him in her life anymore. Ex-father-in-law seemed to agree with her and apologized for all the heartache and pain she went through. Ex-mother-in-law, however, took over the conversation and began screaming that thanks to Bestie, her son had no life. That apparently Bestie was responsible for her firstborn not having a wife or children. The least she could do is take responsibility and become the submissive wife he deserved. Ex-father-in-law tried to pull his wife away, more than likely because they were causing a very public scene. Bestie simply said she would never consider marrying her ex. She then said it might be best to take the food to go and for them to go to their hotel. She paid for all of the food, despite ex-father-in-law offering to cover his and his wife's meal, and drove them to the hotel. At the hotel is where things went from 1 to 100. Ex-mother-in-law spent the whole drive escalating demands, from taking him back, to marrying him, to having his child, and giving him the house as the man in the relationship. Ex-father-in-law apparently kept telling her to stop, but there was no way she could be quiet. She doesn't sound like a very submissive wife herself. Not that she should be one, but damn, she's a hypocrite. Finally, Bestie had had enough. She stopped the car and told ex-mother-in-law she will never take a failure of a man like her baby boy as a husband, let alone give birth to his spawn. That she was glad that no other woman had stayed long term with him, since he really wouldn't be a good addition to the gene pool. I gotta admit, I'm proud of her for that last one. Ex-mother-in-law went crazy and jumped to my friend. Her husband luckily grabbed her, but she still managed to get my friend on the cheek. She began screaming that she was the reason her family had split, called her a whore, and said she wished her house burnt down with all of us inside. Wow, I guess the rotten apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Ex-father-in-law just told my friend to drop their bags on the sidewalk and drive away while he held back his demon of a wife. And Bestie did exactly that. The next thing she did was drive back to us. She wasn't really hurt by the insults or even the attack, but more the notion that a woman she once saw as a second mother would treat her like this. Tomorrow, we're both calling out and just having a girls' day with my mum. I did get in touch with the ex's sister and let her know what happened. She already knew from her dad and asked me if Bestie was pressing charges. She should, but she's not. I tried to convince her, but it's a sore topic for her, so for her emotional well-being, I'm not going to push it. The ex's sister said she appreciates her not pressing charges and that she'll make sure her family doesn't bother us in any way. Apparently, she already moved her brother outside the city. Not sure how or where, but I'm glad he's gone. So hopefully, we're done. But we're still gonna avoid going out too often until we know the ex-monster-in-law is gone from the city. It's not a small city by any means, but I wouldn't put it past these crazies to try stalk Bestie. Update. We just came from filing a police report. My friend won't press charges, but we made a paper trail to ensure at least it's on record. She apologized for not doing it immediately and for going to meet her ex-in-laws. I told her I understand that she's going through a lot of things. We'll see how things go, but she's like a sister to me, and I refuse to let her go through it alone. Hopefully, that's the last update, and that crazy family just leave her alone. Remember, I post new content every day, so subscribe for more juicy tea.